Welcome, and thank you for joining myself, Casey Trill, and Todd Kirk here. We are talking to you about the number one learning app inside of Microsoft Teams. Now, you might say, how are you so bold in saying that? But obviously, Microsoft is consistently tracking information and wanting to see, hey, what applications are being used. So from Microsoft's data that they've provided to us, they're saying, hey, guess what? People are engaging with your platform through Teams. And that's what we're here to talk to you about today. So as you can see on the agenda, we want to make sure that our users are staying inside of Microsoft Teams and they're getting information presented to them that is relevant to what they do every day. Number two, we want to talk a little bit about how do we reduce support calls and also create a culture of self-learning. And then obviously number three, how do we automate? We all know that everybody is limited in resources that you have because of today's climate, just coming out of the pandemic. Fingers crossed, everyone, right? How do we do more with less? How do we automate some of these things? Because everyone's virtual now. How do we automate some of these processes? And that's what we're going to walk through with you today. So let's click the screen and let's actually talk a little bit about what we mean by this. The BrainStorm Quick Help app. So Quick Help, and that was funny, Todd. I actually said a nursery rhyme. So one of the things that you're going to see in this is the BrainStorm Quick Help app. It is a SaaS software that is designed, the whole purpose is to help end users change their behavior, the way that they work with technology. So with that background, we're actually going to jump into a live demo and walk through each one of these scenarios with you. So Todd, if you wouldn't mind getting into Quick Help, and let's start actually just within Teams. Let's just start there. I'm a normal user, I'm in Teams. What would take place is obviously we would do an enterprise install. We would pin this onto every user's Teams so they could be able to see this, and a notification is going to come their way. So if you wouldn't mind just starting right within Teams, I get my notification, and talk to us a little bit about what that looks like.
Well, so the really amazing, powerful thing about the Teams app inside of the Quick Help the BrainStorm Quick Help Teams app is that it is more than just like a bot or something like that. A lot of times when you think about the interactions inside of Teams, we are really just trying to think of it only as some sort of way to tell you about something that's happening outside of the app. But really what this is meant to do is to inform you, right? First of all, so it does have that notification engine, but it also allows you to access our platform and find information directly from the app. So one of the things you'll notice here is I'm logged in. There's a section called Activity. There's a section called Quick Help. And inside of Quick Help, this is actually surfacing information around assignments and resources directly to the user. This is a really powerful way for you to access everything that we have. We'll talk a little bit about this in a second. But the other main thing is, let's say that I've installed the app for the very first time. This now allows the organization to be able to basically send messages to the user directly. So,
okay, let's pause. You've already hit on some massive things that I want to connect some dots on, Todd. Would you mind going back to Quick Help?
Sure.
So one of the first bullet points we talked about is a deeper engagement with your users inside of Teams to help them adopt more of Microsoft Teams. Now, as I'm seeing assignments up here at the top, is that the same for every user, or is there some ability to say, hey, if I'm a different type of worker, the skill paths that are getting presented to me or this learning that's getting presented to me applies to my job? Is that kind of what you're saying here on these assignment sections? I mean, it could be general for everyone, but you could get specific also?
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the most common things that we see a lot of our customers do is they try to make sure that they create relevant training for each of their users. In this case, you'll see that the very first skill path is for a new user. So it says, welcome to the team, and it's talking about security and best practices on that regard. So we can create and craft experiences that are assigned to individual departments or groups or even users that are new hires inside the organization. And that allows us to ensure that the training that's presented to the user is more relevant and tied to what they actually do. We want to ensure that it's not just one size fits all, but rather it's something that we can scale out to users that they'll find applicable right away.
Now there's thousands of users or thousands of organizations, millions of users on side of this platform. One of the statistics I think, Todd, you were talking to me about is 84% or some type of statistic like that when people understand Teams, they understand how it applies to their job because we're doing this. We're actually putting information in front of them that actually applies to them. And I love that statistic from users saying, hey, what you're presenting to me actually means something to me. You're not asking me to go to some site. You're not asking me to go look for information, find information. I'm usually going to search for things that I actually know about. You're saying you're presenting the information to me.
That's right. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Directly to you. So and so if you were to log in right now and see this, you'd see a different set of assignments and a different set of recommendations that are tailored specifically to you.
Fantastic. Now, let's go to the activity component, because again, for those of you that are out there that are on the change management side, maybe you subscribe to pro-sci methodology or some type of change philosophy, it all starts with awareness. It's always awareness. How do we make our users aware of something they didn't know? And so one of the benefits of the communication inside of teams, if I'm living in teams every day and I'm getting a communication that applies to me, that's a massive difference. And how does it happen, Nate? You maybe get an email and it's buried with 1,000 other emails. Oh wait, and it came from IT, and no offense to IT, but I'm not usually clicking on your emails, right? That's a massive change of being able to communicate within teams. So you've prepared some examples for us. Talk through these examples with us.
Yeah, each of these are different examples that I could send as the admin directly to a user base. Again,
can I automate it?
Yes, you can. In fact, one of the things that's amazing about this is there are system notifications that can be generated to the user based off of assignments that have been targeted to that audience. So for example, if I scroll up here, you'll see that those emails or those skill path journeys that were presented, these are incomplete tasks, and the user will receive reminders that they need to go and complete those things, which is super powerful. But in addition to that, let's say you have a very specific and targeted campaign that you're trying to do.
Right.
For example, maybe you're trying to move away from one application towards another or get deeper adoption onto a specific application. Notice right here, the first one I have in here is one about take a technology survey around the way that you use the information.
Amazing.
So as IT, one of the things I could do is I can blast a message out to my organization and say, hey, take our survey about this usage of the application. You click it and it's going to load a survey with, this can be customizable. This has 4 questions. And now all that information is captured all the way down to the information about the user. We know which departments they're in, what they felt, how they're using the applications. And we can then use that to explore how we can further move the user down the pathway of better adoption of the application.
Love that. Okay, so messaging, assessment, where are you currently at today? I know a lot of you in your IT department, you're saying, hey, we're taking a current audit. Like, we've been asked to do more with less. So let's look at applications. What applications do we want to reduce or eliminate? What applications do we want to highlight? And it's okay if it's Teams and you've already signed a contract with Zoom and you're in it's a together better story. Or maybe we do want to reduce down to WebEx and we want to publish more of Teams calling. It doesn't matter what the behavior change is. What we've found, it's a lack of communication and clarity of what you want your users to start doing. What do you want them to stop doing? What do you want them to start doing? So again, that's why this is a valuable resource, is to be able to drive the communication to help them understand that, right? There's a reason why Coke, Pepsi, they still talk to us about drinking their drinks. I know what a Pepsi can do. I know what Coke tastes like. I still get messaged about it all the time, right? We receive these communications. We need to continue to receive these communications, so it's reinforcing those habits that we want our users to create. Okay, well, awesome. What else do we got in here?
Well, this is a second example that's similar to what you're talking about around the idea of a very specific change that you're trying to drive. Maybe first we're trying to collect information from the user because we want to better understand where their mindset is, and then maybe there's also an initiative as an organization where we're trying to change a major behavior. So in this case, it might be moving away from one application to another. Maybe you want to move from Zoom to Teams, and in this case, you'll see that it's now telling you specific benefits of moving and the fact that the organization wants to move. By the way, this is all customizable messaging that you can create. That's why this is so different than a lot of times when we think about a bot. What the bot is actually viewed as some way to just would send automated spamming messages to the user, and we don't want that to be the case. Instead, so for example, if I were to hop here into the back end, you can actually see I want to use Microsoft Teams as a platform. I can preview what I want this message to look like in our system as the IT person, and I can send that message to a specific audience. I can send to all users. I can schedule out that message, and I can have it be blasted out when I need it to as part of a specific and targeted campaign.
A change campaign, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So then the user sees it at the right moment and connects connection to everything else that I'm trying to do. And it's not just like, oh, there's the system notification reminding you about stuff all the time. We want to make sure that it feels really targeted and direct.
That is powerful. I mean, again, think about that. You're like, oh, we could just do this with the bot. We could do that. What you just said of targeting specific information, already pre-created for me, already ready to go. I can choose groups of users. I can set a timer to it, and here's the behavior change I want people to make.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. All right, keep on walking through this.
So, you just another example of a key initiative. The other big benefit of this is if you're trying to drive Teams as a platform, in this case, we're using the BrainStorm app inside of Teams. There's another really common example is let's say that it's something like ServiceNow, right? You use ServiceNow, you're trying to encourage your users to adopt the app inside of Teams and take advantage of the capabilities and the support that you get from ServiceNow. Notice in this, we put out an item here that says, hey, get the virtual now bot. I can click add it, and in this case it does two things. One is it can send me to a 36-second video that shows me how to install the app on my device, but more importantly, I can actually then ask the user, hey, did you do it? Go click it here, and it'll then direct me back into my Teams app to show me exactly where to do it. So I've just taken a couple steps, a couple clicks, and I can see that action. Did the user go in and do what I asked them to do? Do I know if they actually went and performed that step? So that's a really great way for you to be able to drive very specific and targeted behaviors, even down to a main feature of an idea of something you want to do. Not even just a big idea like moving from an application, but adopting a key feature.
All right. That blew my mind. That was awesome. I mean, what other applications do we want to highlight? Do we want our users to start using? Would you mind for just a second too, because I thought that was phenomenal. Would you mind clicking on that zooms to team? Because one of the other things I want people to understand is as we walk through this, again, skill paths, they're at a certain amount of length. They're short 1 to 2 minute little things. Little different assets. It could be a PDF, it could be a video. It could say, hey, go sign up for this instructor-led training. But one of my favorite things is inside of the learning, we are asking questions along the way. Not after, but along the way. You've engaged me, going back to our bullet point number 1, how do I get better Teams adoption? How do I keep my users engaged? Is you're engaging me why I'm engaged.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I just used a couple of different examples. One was sending a survey. Another was sending a very specific task. And now we're talking about looking at a deeper set of learning. I mean, we're talking about assembling a full course that's 20 minutes with a whole bunch of little micro-learning pieces inside of it. And then we want to learn the impact of that overall training, right? So was it effective? Did they find it valuable? Do they intend to use Teams now? Do they think they'll be ready to go in a certain amount of time, right? That gives us insight about how effective we have been at getting the user ready to adopt and make that change. So all along the way, we can craft very specific experiences that can be very short, very direct, just for collecting data, ones to try to drip out a very specific recommendation or idea, or to build out a longer, more complex, knowledge-driven campaign where we're trying to help them understand all of the capabilities that exist inside of an application.
All right. Now you're seeing why people are using this, clicking on this, and installing this inside of their Teams environment for all of those benefits that Todd has just walked through. Todd, would you mind let's touch, we just got just lightly, we only got a couple more minutes here. Let's talk about the reporting that comes out of this. So obviously we're going to communicate to your users within Teams. We're going to build these change campaigns. They're already pre-created. We have thousands and thousands of different assets already curated into specific behavior change. The campaigns are created. We can automate it. We're communicating within Teams, so we're reducing email, all those wonderful things. What are some of the reports with some of the data that we can spit out on here? So I'm seeing something, it looks like maybe I'm making the switch to Teams. Talk to me a little bit about what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, so this is one of the most common scenarios. This is actually probably our most popular thing that most of our customers do today. We've got hundreds of applications we can train you on, and our platform's open, so you can do custom things. But right now, a lot of organizations are just saying, I need my users to collaborate more in an app like Microsoft Teams. And what's interesting here is at the end of that experience, we ask the users what other concerns do they still have that would prevent them from adopting Teams. And so now, again, imagine just like we looked at that other experience, which is a little bit more targeted, right? Moving from one application rather than just deploying a new application. In this case, we're saying, all right, we just taught you everything about Teams. What would stop you? What are the things that would be in your way? And guess what? Globally, we learned that about 65% or so have no concerns. After the training, they're like, we got this. But you can also see the things that also have a high impact, right? So for example, should I stop using other similar solutions for chats, meetings, and collaborations? That's the number one reason why users wouldn't want to adopt Teams. That tells us something, that oftentimes users need to have that buy-in from their manager or from executive leadership in the organization, and that's a change conversation. That's something that we can direct and provide guidance on to the users so we know what to do. Next is, I don't feel like enough people are using Teams to make it worth my time. Okay, well that's awesome. That shows that we need to do a better job of getting more people on the team simultaneously, and we tend to kind of drip things out, like we'll just do this one department here, just this one group here.
Bad idea.
Well, we need to do more people so that they see that network effect. I don't know when I'm supposed to start using it, when am I expected to start using it. Again, a lot of employees are looking for direction from leadership as to what is the most appropriate behavior, and we don't want to step out of line, right? We want to feel like we're following the rules. I'm uncertain about the security of Teams. That's low on the list. All the rest of these are really low. The features are, I need aren't available, super low. I don't want to use Teams. I don't see the benefit, insanely low. The fact of the matter is that when we go and we teach users about it, they see that it's valuable. They understand the benefit of it. They just need that extra little push of change leadership, and that's one of the things that our platform can do really well, and that we can provide direction to you as to what are the types of things that we want to do in the right stages to ensure that we overcome those hurdles too.
And again, if I was to ask you though, when you've had a disruption at your organization in making a technology tool change, I bet you would have told me the number one answer is it just doesn't have the same feature set. It can't do all the things that I currently use in my application. The data, countless times over and over again, has nothing to do with feature set.
Yeah, I mean, that's on the list, but it's pretty dang low.
It's pretty low down there. What really is usually concern is I only know what I know, so if you taught me more of what I should know and how this actually is a better solution, I'm all set. And then from there, it's just change management, executive sponsorship, and really helping people understand and being clear of when we want them to start and stop doing things. Let's fly through these other little data points. Number one, how do I communicate today? Because we tie into Microsoft Graph, we pull in all these different ways of communication. Sometimes people find out that, you know what? Yammer is actually a great thing. We just don't communicate through Yammer. People read it at a super high level. It's just no one's posting inside of Yammer. Well, that's shame on us, right? How do we currently communicate? Now, again, if we're communicating within teams about changes, about what we want them to do differently, and they start to say, wow, this is more than instant messaging. I could actually collaborate with a document inside of Teams or make a quick Teams call. Guess what the natural effect of better communication is? Hit the next slide for us, Todd. It's a reduction of internal email. I can't control external emails coming in, but I can control internal emails. Todd, what's the benefit if we're able within 6 months to reduce down your internal email by 14, 15%? What would be the benefits? What would you say as a change management perspective? What would be some of the benefits there?
Well, I mean, it can be huge. I mean, email is probably one of the most inefficient ways for organizations to actually accomplish work. There's all kinds of really powerful benefits of getting users into a more transparent and open workspace. That means that information flows faster. You can get products out quicker. Cross-functional teams are more successful when you work in a place outside of email because you give a hub for people to collaborate. It creates more secure communication because users don't have the ability to accidentally send something to somebody outside the organization because it's all contained within the team. So security is big. And more importantly, it's super efficient. One of the things that we've seen over the years is that users report when they adopt Teams, saving on average about 4,000 emails a year, and that, I believe, is a low estimate. So when you're talking about the number of emails that you receive every single year and that you're focusing on, that's all this like back and forth internal collaboration, that gets reduced dramatically whenever you're inside of Teams. And Teams, it's now organized by topic, it's organized by audience, other people can chime in, I don't have to control and pick every single person who's gonna see it, and that is a huge benefit too. So Teams has been really powerful in this regard. And I'll mention one thing here that's also really good to point out, is this that we're showing here right now is a real example of a real customer seeing this occur. We're not just pulling something out of the air. These are real examples from real customers.
Again, all according to Microsoft Graph data. This is Microsoft saying the behavior change is happening, right? One last slide and then we're going to end here. One of my favorite things is as we start to get and understand our users and how they collaborate, the users, again, because we engage them and then we engage them more by saying, okay, now that you understand how to utilize this tool, what have you been using? Well, as you can see in this slide, there's 15, 16 different applications, cloud service providers. Now this opens up the conversation of saying, is this right or is this wrong? From an adoption perspective, do we want to try to support all of these? From a security perspective, do we want to allow all of the, have they all been vetted through our security team? And from a compliance issue, have we trained our users how to do this in a compliant way? Now you see, again, it all starts with the communication. It all starts with the interaction. It all starts with that Quick Help Teams app and helping users understand what they should be seeing, what they should be looking for. And then these are just the natural consequences and benefits that happen. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Todd, thanks for spending some time with us.
Of course.
If you are interested in seeing this in your environment, there are different funding options. They're limited in time where you get a little proof of concept to actually test this with different user groups or personas there at your organization. But again, funding and time is limited on that, so please reach out to the people that invited you to this, or you can reach out to BrainStorm directly, and we will respond quickly. I think we'll also have some people reaching out to you. But thank you again for joining us with this conversation.